Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. We have episode 2 of Conversations with April. Don't you like that name?
Yes, I have conversations with April too sometimes.
April Eckfeld is with me here today.
Yay.
You know, that name is, but you're from Puerto Rico, right?
I'm Puerto Rican, and my dad is German, Irish, mix of
Got it.
white people.
Yes.
And a little Native American.
That's good.
But I was raised in Puerto Rico, and I was born in LA and raised in Puerto Rico, and I speak Spanish, and so I identify as a Latina.
Oh, okay. And so this is coming out the first week of June. So do you have any dates or anything you want to plug, or where people can see you?
Let's see. Well, I have a bunch of shows coming up, but they're before that. Oh, I have a show at Flappers in the Yoo-Hoo Room. I'll be with Pretty Funny Women.
Yay.
That'll be fun. That's always great. All women show. And that's I think it's at 7:30.
And
what else?
Your Instagram, I love your Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
At
April Readings.
April Readings.
My Instagram at April Readings. I share some testimonials. I also just post things that people who are interested in intuition or getting readings or just in feeling good. And it's all coming from that sort of like spiritual, intuitive, cosmic perspective, but I always want to give something. I always want to teach people to fish. I always want people to get something of value out of spending whatever time you do looking at my Instagram page. And I try to pick fun pictures. So.
Yes, your pictures are beautiful that you picked. Yeah. And because people don't know you're an artist too. In fact, I think I talked about you in this week's, which is, I don't know, what are we, the 18th? We're in May. You helped me with the Denver, Colorado airport, looking at how disturbing those pictures were.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the podcast episode yet, but I'm excited to.
Well, it was very interesting. Yeah. But so it's June. So I'll be at Great American Comedy Festival, and then Zanies, and then July I just picked up a date in Reno. So I have some fun topics for us to.
Oh, so excited.
Okay.
Bag.
So, and I thought you would be the perfect one to talk to about this, and it's about psychic school, because I went back to school.
I know, and you have told me nothing. I'm curious. I remember you were looking into different schools.
Yes. So
and wow.
I found the Rhine Institute. And it's
Is
not
this the one in London?
No, it's in I think they're in North Carolina. Oh. But it's not psychic, like learn to be psychic. It's parapsychology, which is like the science of it.
That's perfect.
Well, it is, and I think it's going to be great for this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I thought I figured out how to read my reviews, which were so nice. Thank you, everyone. And a bunch of them said she seems to know what she's talking about. So I was like, well, then I got to keep learning.
Yes.
So it's like lab work, like labs they've done on psychics and stuff like that. In fact, in the first class, I think I said vibrations, and there was a big discussion. I was like, he was like, you can't use that word. What's a vibration? And I was like, oh my God, I feel naked without that word.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. And I learned a lot of stuff like about poltergeists that I was overlooking. But the only thing is, I remember now, I hate school. Because the book is like a legal thing. Like I'm having trouble with the book.
It's really academic.
It's really academic, and I'm a little freaked out about the homework. And in fact, how bad is this? Because I have to tell you folks, in the 10 minutes before we started the show, April gave me the best reading about something that I just couldn't, that I have trouble with, and it was just fantastic. So I'm recommending absolutely get a reading with her. And everyone I've recommended you to has just gone bananas with text messages and emails about how great you are.
Oh, thank you.
So at April Readings, Instagram, find her.
Yes.
Okay. So, and you have gone to the other type of school, which is what I want to talk to you about.
Well, I've studied a lot of different things in this field, and I did do psychic training, which was really basic, and it was a lot of meditation. It was not what do you call it? Parapsychology, which really interests me, and it's almost dangerous that you've told me this because now I want to go.
Oh yeah, and I'll give you the overview of it after. But tell about I want to hear about. So you were learning
I went to a place called Clear Sight, which I do recommend. It's they do advanced training. They teach animal communication. They teach energy healing. You can do tarot classes. You can do all kinds of things. But I did a year-long training there, and I was already psychic. I just didn't really have a structured method for how to manage it. I wasn't necessarily interested in doing readings, although I had already done tarot readings before and didn't know why they worked. And I had already predicted things and had a lot of psychic activity in my life from a very, very early age. But it was really great because really what I got out of it was a lot of healing.
Oh, hold on.
Oop.
Sorry, everyone. That was the Amazon delivery man.
So it was a lot of meditation, a lot of visualization, a lot of like really basic skills, and talking about, they have all these different modules, and you study, you just learn, you gain a vocabulary and a skill set for how to navigate your own intuition. And ultimately you do readings and readings and readings and readings for complete strangers, and you do them as a group, and you get to sort of like discuss what happened and ask questions. And
when you say modules, you mean
modules as in almost like in a syllabus you have, we're going to focus on entities today, or we're going to focus on psychic protection, or we're going to focus on Akashic records. You're going to learn how to go to the Akashic records, or, things that are in the kind of general vocabulary of the psychic world, everything. But it really begins with the basics. And there in Los Angeles, there are a lot of places that you can study these things, especially now it's kind of like becoming so kind of popular. What was really fascinating to me was the other people that I studied with, and their experiences. There were people there who had zero trust in themselves, and I don't even know how they ended up there. There's this one woman who doubted every single thing that came out of her mouth, and she, not surprisingly, was one of the strongest psychics. There was another woman who was very guarded and very traumatized all her life, and she would only read from inside of a protective bubble, and she would open the door, give the message, and shut the door.
Wow. Now, do you think that was somebody that was so empathetic they were almost a shut-in sort of thing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she was radically psychic, but she also was so sensitive that she kind of couldn't really walk through the world without tons of injury.
Wow.
Just always exposed. And then there was a woman who, I think she was like secretly doing the training, but she was Japanese and very modest, very soft-spoken, and eventually she just disappeared from the class. But she was also good. And then, and then usually the people who are like really into it and excited and gung-ho are the most annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, and there was mostly women, but I know that men do the training too.
So, and so it almost feels like too, there's not any information we're missing. It's meditation, it's discipline, and they gave you a format.
Yeah.
Of do this, do this, do this.
It was guided. It was very protected. It wasn't like, a dark arts kind of situation. It was a very light-oriented, healing-oriented, which is not for everyone. There are people who already have all that and really want to get into. It's like what you're doing, like you're going into a very specific place for a specific kind of training. And I think that when if who we're addressing or your listeners are people who are curious to know if they are psychic or they are psychic, but they don't know exactly how to work with it, it's helpful to just take a bite at a time and just take on one thing at a time and find people that you really trust, with whom you feel safe to study those things. And those people do exist all over the world, not just LA. I know it's like
they're easier to find here, but they don't show up.
Yeah. I mean, and
I always tell people meetup.com if you can go on there, because the other thing that they're building there's two things. Because I actually may do now parapsychology has me thinking about my own lab, my own sort of theory that I'll tell you about later because I can't say it on the air.
Okay.
Because you might want to help me with it.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
Okay.
But it's almost like, first of all, you walk in with someone you trust. There's a teacher, so we assume she knows more than us. And there's a safe space to do this. So your husband doesn't even have to know you're at a psychic learning. So that must immediately right there make the whole environment better if you want to be a psychic, right?
I think a safe space is really important because you do open yourself up and you don't yet have the tools necessarily to, or even the understanding to know what you're getting into. Sort of like playing with a Ouija board is like kind of a very pedestrian example.
Right. If you don't know what you're doing, you can.
Yeah. I wouldn't touch one. I don't touch Ouija boards. I'm not into it. I think it's like super low level.
Low vibration is what I always say.
Yes.
And it's interesting because sometimes I know people from the it's the historical board. My friend Calvin's always on it. And you know what? 90% of the people will have a positive experience. But there's a lot of things that I just think don't take the chance. I mean, I know it's just a divination tool, like a tarot card, but I feel like with you, it's a low vibration. It attracts low things. It's like letting everyone out on the street know your door is unlocked.
Yeah. It's like the processed food of the psychic world.
Right.
But what I find is like, because
it might not kill you, but probably will eventually.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think clear sight was just one of many, many things that I did. And I started studying these things when I was a little girl. And my parents were really into psychics and astrologers and in a good way. So I grew up with open-mindedness around me and lots of different religions. So I was like conscious of a lot of different spiritual traditions and beliefs. And there wasn't one correct or right one, which, the devout Catholics in my family would not be happy to hear, but it was inevitable because I loved everyone. And how could I not love one person because their God was different than the other?
I got to get there, or their political view, right? Oh.
Well, that's tough, but especially now, but yeah. So what I've learned that what makes me able to be a practicing psychic reader, I think, is very much informed by how I process what I receive. It's not just the literal ability to see and to hear and to feel, and download psychic information. It's actually what do you do with it then? And can you direct the traffic? And so when you do a psychic training, like a basic training, I really think it's about learning how to direct traffic, but then you really hope that the person and that, anybody who's gone to a psychic knows, like, we're all completely different. And no two are the same. And one's going to work for you. Another one is going to give you a reading that you think is a bad reading, but that same person came highly recommended from someone who had a really healing experience with them. So, it's kind of a chemistry thing too. It's like, who are our teachers, and are we attracting and open to those people,
And by the way, folks, I feel like since we started this, airplanes have been going over and motorcycles. And so if you're hearing a lot of noise in the back, just ignore it. So another thing too, and there's two things, and the dog is snoring. Well, I have to tell you my funny animal communication story. And then remember, I have two things. I have to hold my fingers up, otherwise I'll forget. Okay. So I was talking to Sonia, the animal communicator.
Yes.
And she's always in touch with him. Her and him just have a thing. And
him as in Courage.
Courage, yes.
Right now. Yes.
So she found out that when she leaves her house, her two dogs howl. And I was like, wow, I have never, ever heard Courage howl. And I said, ask Courage why he doesn't howl. And she said, he says he's never felt the need to reach out to the community. Isn't that adorable?
Yeah.
He's never felt the need to reach out to the community.
Well, Courage is a very happy only child.
Yes, he is.
I think Courage likes his
I think those
autonomy.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, he's like, don't come over here.
This is mine.
Yes.
And I'm in complete control of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things back to your class.
Yes.
This is something that you... I think this is something from your childhood that seems really good to me, is like you talked about, and as an astrologer you knew that you actually you were like, and I spent a lot of money there and he was great.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that even, I think people feel that way. Like, even if you get a great psychic reading, you might be like, ooh, $100 or $500 or whatever. I like that you embrace the experience. This is the artist in you. And this is where my artist needs to come out. The experience in you is like, I feel good about this. I want to go get this reading. The cost doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Right? It's almost like, I know I have a lot of Latina clients because that's their therapy. They find the right.
Well, we subscribe to magical thinking, first of all.
Right.
We don't call it magical thinking. The Latin world is very surreal. We're believers.
Right.
And, that's like a whole other conversation. But you'll find that it's also like people who are used to living among many generations of each other, families that live together.
Nobody
with
scoffs,
each other.
right? And nobody scoffs if you went for a reading for $100.
Yeah, or if you go to India, there's like an astrologer in every village, and the astrologer predicts things, and they predict exactly what's going to happen when and what's not.
I think
Who do
we're
you
next
marry?
to a parade.
I think
there's
parade
a parade,
day
a motorcycle parade.
Nice.
Not only that, in this class that I'm taking in parapsychology, there actually was a point where he just spoke about Brazil, because Brazil so believes that their interaction and their seeing apparitions all the time. Like somebody was like, why did you mention Brazil?
They wouldn't even call it they would take the word believe out.
Right.
They are seeing.
Right. In fact, it was funny because the very first class of my thing, which I always say I'm dyslexic, but this book is really hard. Like I've been watching the lectures 3 times and I've been trying to go over the notes. I'm going over everything. And I'm like, I just keep saying to myself, even a D is passing, Karen, a D is passing. But I love the instructor. His name is Lloyd Orbach, and everybody, AUERBACH, go stalk him on Facebook, because we're not even close to the things I wanted to throw at you about this.
Yeah.
We're going to get into mind over matter but he is brilliant.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's all science. He even addresses like the amazing Randy making that challenge, but it's so lab oriented. And they say parapsychology is the study of consciousness beyond the body.
Okay.
So in other words, that could be people that have passed on, if it's a consciousness, not a different type of haunting. And they're very specific with their words. And also, and then I'll tell you something that I learned about poltergeist that was amazing. But it was so funny because I contacted him as one of the first people to have on the podcast. And he answered me right away. And he was like, I'm on the road. Can you call me another time? And I was like, yeah. And now I'm like, thank God I did not go at him with my pansy little questions. Now that I know what he's about, it's like I know what I'm going to ask him after the class is over, and I'm going to take his other classes, and it's so wonderfully intense. I can't even tell you, but so that's the way it's described, as consciousness. Even they talk about ESP as a just extended sensory perception instead of just extra. It's not extra. And
That's a much more useful term.
Right.
And more practical, yeah.
And they talk about how there's a lot of discussion about the word paranormal, because paranormal means not normal.
Exactly.
But is it not normal? And the minute that we understand it and becomes normal, does it move out of the category? No.
Right.
So it's very fascinating. So, and so I'm going to finish the class and then have him on the show.
Great.
Hopefully soon. But I'm going to take all the classes, which I don't know how many there are. So I'll be in school for a while getting D's, I hope. But I'm still learning so much. So, and that'll be the second half of the conversation. But when you read for someone, you make them say their name 3 times.
Yes.
What does that do?
What it does is okay, so when I'm reading, first of all, I do a lot of preparation. I do meditation. I'm kind of anal about it, because
Disciplined.
it just helps me to go to a really quiet place. That's really what that does, and it helps me to not bring any baggage into the reading.
And it's just discipline, and it's the routine that tells yourself, hey, we're doing this now.
Yeah, and it's a lot of respect, because I think when you create that sort of safe space, then you're more likely to have access.
Interesting. I like that word, respect.
Yeah. And so I create like a really quiet, kind of sacred space. Not kind of, a quiet sacred space, and invite in whatever I'm allowed to see. Because I'm not allowed to see everything. That's not up to me, And So I'm looking at the color of people's aura, essentially. When they say their name, what I'm doing is I'm taking a snapshot of their energy in this very present moment. And that part of my preparation is also to like bring all of me into the present moment. My psychic self, my body, everything is here in the present moment, not floating off in some other room thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch, or something that happened yesterday. And so I take a snapshot of their energy, and then I actually turn my crown chakra, which is gold, when I start, and I turn it 3 shades lighter from the lightest color of their aura. Okay. And it could be multiple colors or it could be one, but that just gives me sort of like a context. And then pictures appear, and it's as though I am speaking the language of their higher self by matching their highest vibration color in the present moment. And I isolate questions and I ask them to repeat their name or the names of anybody that we are that's involved in what it is that we're talking about. And by repeating the names, it just like keeps bringing us to the present, and it also shifts because a person starts in one place in the reading and they go to many different places based on how their energy or vibration works with the question or the topic or whatever it is that's happening.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very colorful and active for me.
Right. And there's a lot there. Do you ever, it's very interesting because I say at point, I'm on the cards and sometimes I'm off the cards. Sometimes I'm looking at, like, even in this class, the first thing he says is, tarot cards are just somebody that doesn't want to deal with their psychic or something. Like no one likes tarot cards. Everyone's like, oh, they're not, but I love them. So that's what I'm doing. But I feel like sometimes I'm glancing at the cards, and also if I need a point of focus, if I feel myself drifting, I can go right into that. Or if I feel sometimes when I do too many readings, I feel a little woozy.
Yeah.
And then I go down and tell exactly, almost like I'm teaching them what the cards mean, and put it that way, and I get the same answer.
Yeah.
But have you ever had where you're literally, like, I'll get on a tirade where I'll be like, blah, 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 and it just keeps going. And in my head, I'm hearing, who's fucking talking? What are you talking? It's almost, maybe it's more of a channel where I go, I'll hear, it's almost like I hear my voice, and yet I'm going, who's doing this? Who's saying this?
And you don't know?
I don't really know. I mean, I know it's me, but it's almost that second, and I don't mean it as a second of disbelief, but it's almost like
you're just really conscious of the fact that you're not in charge.
Maybe that's it. I never thought of it with that wording, that I'm not in charge. But I almost also feel like that is the purest information sometimes.
Well, we've talked a little bit about channeling, right?
Right.
Like transmediumship. And when I read, I actually literally, I cleanse, I kind of clear all of my transmedium channels, which run from like the bottom of your ears down the sides of your neck, and then they run from the bottom of your armpits down the side of your body, and then down the legs. And I do a whole thing, and then I fill them with light, and I actually close them because I do not want any other entity to enter my body. I can pick up the phone, I can receive the message, I can hear, I have all the tools I need to be able to translate what I'm receiving.
Okay.
So I'm not willing to allow someone else to enter my body and reset all of my calibrated chakra gauges, because my chakras are open and closed to the degrees I set them to.
Oh, okay. And you know what? I'm going to hold you for 1 second while we go to an ad.
Sure.
Because that just sparked 10 more questions. We're not even going to get to where I thought today. So.
That's okay. This is good.
Hang on. We'll be right back.
Okay.
I have a new favorite thing. It's my ring from Copper Case Jewelry. I did a show in Colorado, met a wonderful young man named Casey who told me he made crystal jewelry. So I'm in. That's all I had to hear. He makes raw crystal jewelry using copper electroformulist techniques. Do I know what that means? No. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing those words correctly. All I know is I love the final product. It has become my favorite ring. And I know you're thinking, crystal ring, that sounds kind of clunky and sharp. Is it going to be heavy, or is it going to get caught on my sleeve every time I put my coat on? Absolutely not. It is the most delicate, perfect size ring. I even wear it through yoga, and it's uncomfortable to wear jewelry in yoga. Not this. You got to check out Casey's pieces. Go to 29 Coppercase on Instagram, and you can see all his new work. You can also email him if you want something special at 29coppercase@gmail.com. Check it out. I know you're going to love it.
All right, we're back. So before I forget, I know people, you're just gorgeous. You're just gorgeous and you're a great actress. So before I forget, where can people see your acting reel or get a vibe on you?
Okay, so you can see, I have a homemade website. I'm a little embarrassed, but I need some work. But you can see some of my other work at aprilekfeld.com. Literally, it's www.aprilekfeld.com. Okay. And none of my psychic anything is there. I'm also a writer, a playwright. I'm an actor and director. It's sort of a whole bunch of like entertainment stuff. I'm a graduate of fine art, visual arts school. I was a fashion designer for like over 10 years.
I love all this.
So the arts have always been, that's all I've ever done really. And I for a long time didn't like to be on camera. I studied acting and then went back to art school. So it took me a long time to be comfortable with that, which is maybe another story for another episode, but it was a spiritual kind of experience. And I came back to acting, and it challenges me, and it's emotional work, really. That's kind of, it's the medium is not just your face and your body. It's really your energy and your spirit.
Because there's a million beautiful people in LA. There's not a million that you see have that spark or see them on screen or go, that really works there.
Yeah, beautiful doesn't make you an actor. No. I mean, just watch, any good show, any characters. But yeah, so in my day-to-day life, as well as doing readings every day, I love doing readings, though. Like, that would be in my life no matter what. Yeah. No matter what. It's just, part of who I
think
am.
Even if I got the TV show or whatever I want, which I don't know if it's the TV show now, I kind of like my life. I think if my life was a little monetized a little more, with a little more free time, I might keep it just like this. I asked that of people, because I do readings for lots of people who do energy type work, whether they're massage therapists or Reiki or, whatever it is. And all of those people, it's sort of like a part of who they are and how they communicate in the world and how they walk through the role they play as themselves. It's not an on and off thing.
Yeah. And even if, people pay you because, that's what you're giving a lot of time and energy to, I don't know anybody who would not do it if they, had, the show take off. I don't know if there was an actress on Desperate Housewives who, I think she was a psychiatrist or a psychologist before she got the show. And then she had to fire all her clients and go off, which is not what I would do. But, so a lot of us are living many lives. So,
right. Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like it keeps me a better person. Yes, because I do feel like it's almost amazing to me, if you want to go all complete conspiracy theory on the church, that they want to, first of all, when they control your sexuality, they control you. That's what I feel like, number one. And number two, they don't want you to feel as great as the connection I feel when I read. Like, I feel like it literally brings me closer to God. Like, I feel...
It's interesting that you say that, because I have some clients who are very Christian, and they, to their credit, they're very open about their concerns about speaking with a psychic, and we talk about it. And I have text threads with these people who, like, sometimes they get a little worried, or they're like, I don't know why does this not feel bad?
Right. When someone told me,
when the Bible tells me that it's wrong. And my way of responding to that is always like, first of all, you have to deal with yourself. You have to do what's right for you. And I can't tell you what's going to be right or wrong. I can tell you how I feel about it, and particularly in the case of somebody's died.
Oh, mediumship kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like you're not supposed to talk to the dead.
Right.
What the Bible is saying. And predictions, like any kind of like soothsayers is the word in the Bible.
But you know what, too? I feel like, first of all, the Bible is so contradictory. And what I liked from the Bible was the Sermon on the Mount, and that's it. And and that's very vague. That's not a lot. Mm-hmm. But also, that's like when I Googled patron saint of psychics and mediums. Nobody tells you about that. There is one.
There's a patron saint of everything.
Yeah, why would there be one if we're all going to hell? Why would we have a patron saint? All kinds of stuff like that, and also the interpretation. Like in Hebrew, love has three. There's three different kinds of love, and we just see love. Love your brother. You know, love it, whatever. And it's so. I don't know. So that one's hard for me anyways. And I'm not a scholar, so I'm not a Bible scholar, but I know that's all I say. Look up patron saint of psychics and mediums, which, by the way, folks, I'm going to try and have the one guy I think might have a lot to say on that
Catholicism
particular saint.
Or
I'm obsessed with this saint. His name is Agabus. I think I told you about him. He's the patron saint of psychics and mediums, and they would... I can't remember which disciple would go to him and talk to him. And
there's patron saints of thieves. There's patron saints of clowns. Actors have patron saints.
Clowns?
Yes, clowns. Clowns and actors got the same one, I think. Yeah, I think clowns, comedians, and actors maybe got the same one.
Oh, okay.
Genesis, I think, is his name.
Oh,
but
I want to find out because I just find that very interesting. And I actually have a necklace with his picture on it. Because I was like, I got to get this. And there's almost no information on him. And they only have clips about Agabus in certain very religious, you always on YouTube speaking from the podium, and the name comes in and kind of goes out. But it's almost like this character that I don't know if nobody knows or nobody talks about, but there's a guy online that has a lot of information about him that I'm going to try and get a hold of.
Yeah.
Do
you want me to address the question you were asking about who's talking when you're
yes,
downloading?
Go ahead.
Because I was saying how I close my medium channels. So one thing that I'm doing throughout the reading is I'm receiving information, and if I get emotional or if this is through practice and training that I know this, I'm constantly making separations between what's mine and what's yours.
Okay.
So that all the information that's coming through that's going to the person I'm reading for is for them, and it's not muddled or mixed up with my own stuff. And so, for example, somebody may trigger an emotional memory of mine of something tragic that happened, and I've practiced at noticing when something like that comes up, and then visually I have a reference in my psychic mind that I'm making separations. I literally have these like files, and I'm draining my memories out of it, and I'm keeping the lessons, and then I put them back into my psychic storage bank, and I'm doing that while I'm reading. And sometimes during a reading I'll pause, but this is directly to your question, which is sometimes it is you talking, and it is really good to have a practice for how to make a separation and how to notice when it's you inserting yourself into the situation versus allowing the download to just come through. But I suspect with you that it is a very clean message that you're giving, but you are still acquiring more skills around doing the psychic reading without the cards.
Right.
So it's just a little bit different than how you normally do that, right?
Yeah,
I don't have the card to look at with the character to look at and say who's talking.
Right. And I think I'm doing more off the cards, and I actually will get to that place. But it's so funny because I do so many readings with the cards, and I want to make sure when someone buys a reading, you're like me. We want to make sure they're getting what they paid for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try something new. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think what I find sometimes is the reading. I get the information before the layout, or I simply glance at the cards and look past, and I feel like sometimes that. Yeah.
I get readings once a person calls me, sometimes even before they call me, they'll pop into my mind, or I'll be in the car and the reading hasn't formally begun yet, but I already am in it.
It's funny.
It happens that way.
You know, it's funny too, because I keep finding, I feel like there's an evolution going on with me right now, especially with taking this class. And all of a sudden I had to have singing bowls. So I got the one singing bowl that's for the heart, and they're usually expensive, but I think it was when I talked to Sallow, she said they're $50 on Amazon, and I found them. So I thought, okay, I'll buy these slowly. So I got the one for the third eye, and so yesterday morning I got up and there was all this, people were buying my airline tickets for the festival, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to fly Delta, I want to fly Southwest, and it's easier with Courage on Southwest. And so I left her this message, and then I got very anxious, and then I just sat down and I started playing the third eye one. singing bowl, and it's going, woo, and I can see she's not calling me. She's changing the reservation without asking me. And 2 minutes later, I get the phone call, and she's like, okay, so I changed it to Southwest, like, da-da-da. And I was like, oh, how interesting. There's another tool I can pull out. Like, I think that was more of remote viewing, was what that was.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me, and it looks to me like once the sound takes over, your analytical mind, the worry mind, the monkey mind
drops
quieted down. And so the sound vibration sort of took over and allowed you to go into that zero zone where you can actually see. This is almost like a kind of a trick or like a tool of actors, is if you whisper or shout a line of dialogue, it won't come. First of all, it affects your emotions, and there are many, many gauges with your voice, but specifically with sound, you can enter different states of being through sound. I actually have a whole theory about sound. I believe that sound is I think it's stronger than like nuclear power. I actually believe that sound is one of the tools that in the future is going to be considered like a natural resource.
Well, that was Natalie Gray, the first, a couple episodes ago, the English lady, she went down and kind of came out of the Matrix, and the first thing she said is, we can heal everything with sound.
Yeah.
Not motorcycle sounds in the street.
Sound and light.
Yes, and that was Sallow. And I think those, but anyways, go ahead, you were talking about acting and yelling a line or whispering a line?
Yeah, there's like actors know this who particularly do voice work, and I do recommend it for anyone, but especially if you're an actor and you want to train on a deep level, go do like Linklater technique, or there's different people who just focused on the voice. And, there's certain like registers of your voice that will cause different vibrations in the room or a different effect in another person. And similarly, when you use that sound bowl, it's really amazing how it just teleported you. Mm-hmm. It turned off what needed to turn off so that you could instantly be
at that space,
have access to what you needed to know.
And it's funny too, because again, in this class where I think they covered, I don't even know what's coming up, because they covered, like, all I know was covered in the first hour and a half. And I was like, wow, where are we going?
Yeah.
And, finally, this guy is so good, this Lloyd Arbach. And everyone watch his Mind Over Matter on YouTube. His Mind Over Matter lecture on YouTube is amazing. And he said, remote viewing is like watching TV.
Yes.
And I was like, thank you. No one can explain it that simple. That's all I need to know. I'm watching it,
It's like you're watching a movie.
But it's real time.
Right.
It's real time.
Yeah.
So the other thing I started for folks, that I change up my meditation a lot to, I can get very used to something. So this is a good one, is in the morning, I'll just get up and I'll pick a number like 333, count down to 0 by threes. 333, 300. 327, 324. And that is that non-thinking thinking that allows information to come in.
That's really interesting.
Hard.
That's interesting.
Or do twos. Twos can even be hard. 100, 98, 96, 94, 92. So you got a rhythm, and you got to think just enough that you can't think about what else is going on. You got to just think just enough.
Yeah, if you struggle with meditation, and I know it kind of always comes back to that, and some people get annoyed by meditation as the tool or the gateway, but really if you struggle with it, which is also like totally normal, just empty out a box of matches and pick them up one by one and put them back in the box. Like, there's so many different types of repetitive exercises that you can do that will, knitting or and creative people know this too. Like, I wrote a whole thesis about this when I was in art school, that some of the greatest work you'll ever do will be while you're washing the dishes, taking a shower, when you're in sort of a repetitive activity, cleaning the house, and your brain may be turned off and you are in a sort of almost surrendered state. You may not be conscious of it, but a lot of us are always like, especially artists, we want to know, like, when are we working and when are we not? Like, I'm in my bathrobe, but I think I just, had a breakthrough. It's as if the bathrobe is the business person or business executive's suit, power suit in and off, Yeah.
Well, I think I've been doing a lot of automatic writing.
Yeah, you keep referencing that. That's so cool.
I think that's going to become a habit to empty. And sometimes I'll be writing and I'll write, "You're not connected right now. Hang on, just do this to get connected. Don't get up. Just get connected."
I think that's what Julia Cameron means by doing your artist pages in the morning.
Yes, and I think she doesn't even know it. Yes.
Because if you just dump it, you're not editing it, it has no agenda, it's never going to be read by anybody, then that's a great place for automatic writing to come in.
Yeah, and I feel like too, if I
by the way, automatic writing is when you're not doing the writing but your hand is involved.
Yes, I see it that way, but I feel like it is I feel like there's two lanes on that. There's the way she explained it, which could be, I tell people you can write, I hate writing morning pages for 3 pages if you want.
Right.
But you're going to get bored with that, and then you're going to really start to unlock and just go, I don't know why is this person bothering me? I need to get to the bottom of that. Da, da, da. And then sometimes I get like, this could be a very dark news day and you need to stay away from it or turn it off.
Yeah.
Also, blah, 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 so, and it's very odd, the information I get. And I try to do that with the tarot card of the day if I have time in the morning, because the one I do on Facebook.
Yeah, I love that.
I try to find the message there. And usually when it comes that way, a lot of people go, that's what I needed to hear today or something like that. But it's so funny. I'm so angry with time. I feel like there's so much I want to learn and there's so much I want to do, and time is just flying by.
Have you ever tried floating? Sensory deprivation tanks?
No, I haven't.
I feel like that might be really good for you.
All right.
Because you have a tendency, I'm going to get personal here.
To float anyways, right?
You have a tendency to jam so much into your life and your schedule. Like, just, you guys, every time I see Karen, she's got like 50 things going on, and they're all amazing, and they're all exciting.
I want to start a new podcast.
Yeah, and there's new stuff. You got new stuff, and I don't know how you do it all, and it's fun because you love it. There's, like, you're coming from joy, but at the same time, like, there's this like question in my mind is like, when does she take breaks or does she rest and stuff? And the sensory deprivation tanks have been around a really long time. There's a place called Just Float, I know, in Pasadena that does it, but most cities have it. And you pay to basically go into a dark, body temperature, highly saline water that your body floats in and you don't feel your body.
Oh, I would love that. Okay, let's do that. Do you want to do it?
I'll do it with you. Yeah.
How much is it?
I think you can do like an introductory price of like $20 or $30 to do
Oh my
for
God,
so.
that's simple.
But it's
and
like,
we'll write it off. It's like it's part of the podcast.
Yeah, and it's like a deep meditation. As a kid, my dad went all the time. My dad would go and he would like have these meetings with these like psychic. He's very psychic, and everyone in my family's psychic, but not everybody functions or uses it the way I do. But anyway, I think that would be really great for you. And I'm just saying this about time because you don't have to be angry with it. And I would love for you to have
I know that was kind of a joke, but I do feel like I have like my to-do list. Like I'm finding time, like I'm trying to go Sundays are mine. Sundays nothing should happen but create.
Good.
But that's like I was saying, you sort of see creativity as like it's a not an exchange. What is it? It's I can't think of the word, but it's important. Like I was brought up in a place where creativity is the last thing you do if you have time at the end of the day. Yet when I crochet, I make these gorgeous things that I would like more of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that I think I would really like to take that tank. I'm trying. That sounds great. We're going to do that.
I think just because you can schedule it, and when it happens, you get a big recharge, very deep recharge. Plus, bonus, you're in salt water.
Oh.
So you're releasing a lot of negativity. I always, we talk a lot about salt and salt baths and things like that.
Right.
Anything, I think for anybody who struggles with making time for self-care, which is something that also is like always going to be in every reading I ever talk about, schedule it then.
Yeah, I think that that sounds like a great thing for me, because it's funny because sometimes when I meditate, my other meditation, I just fall into black. whether it's pudding or what, it's just nothingness. And I just
That's
float.
a glorious place to be.
It is. It is. And I know a lot of people would be maybe afraid of black, but I feel like it's pudding. Like I'm in pudding. And
That's really interesting. I was talking to someone, or maybe I was doing a reading for someone recently who was like, I think I'm psychic, but I'm afraid of what I'm going to find out. So I keep it away. I forget who it was. It was someone I was pretty sure
they must be afraid of something they're going to find out about themselves.
I don't know, but I remember what stood out about what they were saying was because a lot of, like, we talk about this, and a lot of people that we read for, sometimes they're like, am I intuitive, or what's going on with me, and how do I, and this person just admittedly said, I have never allowed myself to go there, and I think I'm maybe, that was why we were having the conversation. She was like, I think I'm ready to, like, she was tired of being afraid.
Right. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful thing and really inspiring to me because I was like, good for you. Sometimes we have to get tired of ourselves to like move to the next page.
Yeah. I think there's like even what we were talking about before, where you gave me the reading before this, there was a point in my life where I literally said out loud, I need someone and something to challenge everything I do. And boom.
That's like so exhilarating for me to hear.
It is, but now I got to get over it. I got to get over it. You know what I mean? But I was like, yeah, show me my lessons. Let's do it.
Those are our teachers, I think a lot about antagonists and, villains. And I mean, as an actor, I can't wait to play a really great villain, like the Game of Thrones type villains, but because I really think a lot about the shadow side of life, and the role that plays in, especially as like,
well, you're a Scorpio, right?
Well, I'm a Sagittarius in Western astrology. I'm a Scorpio in Vedic, which is really what I subscribe to, but, which yes, everybody's afraid of Scorpio, but
well, they're the darker side of all of us, which is darker is a choice word. It's
I think everyone has a shadow.
Oh yeah.
As long as you're standing under the sun, there's going to be a shadow. If you don't have a shadow, then there's something else.
Well, I've always said the people I know that have done ayahuasca, the only two people I know that had a horrible experience are the people that are not that in touch with their dark side. They're the ones where you're like, do you have a dark side?
That's what I'm talking about. Like this woman who was afraid, and I was like, you don't really get the light without the dark.
Right.
And this is something that we're seeing in the world, no matter where you stand in the political or religious or, whatever your position is, we can all see that there's dark and light, and that there's like always, it seems like a battle for space, it's like, but I don't really think that. And I think, back to the thing about being in school with other people who are too enthusiastic, like, yay, I want to be a psychic, I'm kind of turned off by that because I think that, the really great intuitive people have really studied and understand and come to terms with, on some level, the unknowability of things. And also there's a lot you can know about the shadow. There's a lot you can study about the shadow, and you don't need to be afraid of it.
Right.
But the answer to everything is not light and happy and positive and mantras and manifestation. Like there's, you got to confront those things sometimes.
And growing pains are hard. That's how we grow.
Yeah. And there are sometimes challenges that come through our lives, and the resolution is not going to be, I'm going to take your pain away.
Right.
And that's when it gets like really intense, like people dealing with chronic illness and things like that. It's like, how do you speak to a person who literally is just suffering through a cycle of their life, and it is part of their growth experience, but you cannot take their pain away.
Right. And you also can't go, well, you chose that in this life.
I mean, I don't know if that would be very helpful.
Right.
Although I do think that the more that we can consider the possibility that we made a choice without the punishing side of that or the judgmental side of it, then the more
those are
freedom.
the big ones. Yeah.
Then we get some freedom around it.
Yeah, because I also feel like, and I'm glad that you said punishing, or because people do that. They go, why did this happen? I didn't make this happen to me. And I always use this same example, but somebody would say to me, well, then why would someone get molested? And I always say, maybe that person came into this life saying, I want to learn about forgiveness. And you know what I mean? Which didn't mean they didn't ask to be molested, but if you want a lesson, you know what I mean? I asked for it to be challenged, and I got challenged.
We all are, like, if anybody listening to this, if you think about a really uncomfortable time in your life or a challenge that happened that you didn't think you could overcome. Like, first of all, everybody knows what those things are in their lives. And you can walk through, especially in hindsight, you can walk through the lessons you learned. And you can also, if you're really honest with yourself, you can walk through and see the lessons you rejected, the ones that came around again to be learned again, or that you could have avoided had you really embraced the opportunity, which is, it's just hard to do. It's hard to do, but we grow and we get better. We get more. We have, like, when you close, you change, you move to the next chapter of your life because you've gone through the cycle. Like, yes, new challenges come, but also new benefits come. Just like getting older. You get older and everybody's just afraid to get older. But then if you make good choices or you confront adversity in your life, you grow older and you have character, you have wisdom, you have insight, you have less fear.
And you feel more in control. And that's the perfect place to take a break because you're leading me to my last topic that I wanted to talk about.
Excellent.
Okay.
Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Sonova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out.
Okay. God, it's always funny. We're already over time because I would just talk to you forever. And this is going to be part of, we're going to just do this every once in a while. Yeah. As long as you'll come over, you got a spot on the podcast.
If I can catch you in the city.
I know, the both of us all over the place. Yeah. One of the topics that we will be discussing in my class that I'm taking, not my class that I'm teaching with this guy, he did a lecture on mind over matter, and it blew my mind, and it gave me more hope for anything. Okay, so even if you are someone that's listening and you're chronically ill, I'm going to give you a movie. Not that I don't know your burden. I don't, but I want you to watch a movie called E-Motion. Okay, I loved this movie. I left this movie on in my apartment when I was gone because the vibration felt so high.
Wow.
And it's about healing and emotion and a whole bunch of stuff. But watch his lecture on mind over matter. And I want all you listeners to send me stories, and always put on there, you can say my name or you can't say my name. But I'm going to tell you my story of mind over matter, and then you send me yours. Because the way that he describes it, he talks about how we think it's adrenaline. He tells a story about a woman who, the woman that lifts up the car, it's on fire, pulls the key out, and
like the emergency response.
Right. And they always call that adrenaline, but it's actually mind over matter. And in fact, he got into some real interesting stuff. I can't wait to interview him about poltergeists. And I think a lot of hauntings, because poltergeist was sort of not a outside ghost. It's coming off of someone in the house. And he had some of the most fascinating stories about poltergeists that I think regular ghost hunting is mistaking for an outside entity. And it's so weird that I saw this because somebody contacted me before I started this class. And they described something that was going on in their home. And my first thought was, this is coming off of one of the people in the house. And it was two women, and they were over 50. So, usually everybody says, well, it's teenagers that have their hormones. And I was like, no, I think this is... And then as I'm watching this class, I was like, I was right. I was right. It has to be one of the two. And I know, and exactly, my brain was putting together more clues to the story as this woman was telling me than I actually even let myself.
So your intuition was working.
Intuition was working. And what's funny? I'm very, I have a lot of people I talk to that I trust implicitly. And I thought, you know what? Sometimes I have to step out of their boxes and into mine. So talk about poltergeist. But I'm going to tell you all my mind over matter story. And then I hope they'll email them in and you and I can read them.
Yeah, I would love to hear
God.
your readers' questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or there's, so here's my only, when I was in 6th grade, I think I had learned, somebody said, you want to play basketball? And we don't play basketball. Entered in a statewide foul shooting contest. So I'm in 6th grade. You're all lined up. You take 10 shots. You go to the end of the line, take 10 more until you get 30. So I go up, and on my first 10, I get 9 out of 10 in the basket. Oh. Okay? We go around. Second one, 8 out of 10. Okay? Third one, it was either 9 or 8. It was something where, okay? So we go over and I win, and that's right, but that's fine. My father comes over, like his head exploded, like he can't believe it. Like, oh my God, professionals don't get that many baskets in. And I remember thinking in my head, well, you told me to put the ball in the basket. So what's the big deal? I put the ball in the basket, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know better.
Yeah.
And never happened again.
That is a perfect microcosm of how people get in their own way and why it really benefits us to stop analyzing and thinking and putting so much effort into some of the things we want to accomplish or generate in our lives.
Right. It was just like I had
You had beginner's mind and it wasn't even in your mind.
You just told me to put it in the basket, so I put it. I thought I was going to be mad about the ones I missed. You know what I mean? It's like
I mean, our educational system. This is kind of how I was raised. Well, my dad raised me my mom and dad were divorced, long story, but my dad believed that they uneducate you, that as children, we are taught that we don't know things that we actually do know. And I think this is true. As much as, education is like one of the things I value most in the world. I also think the way that we educate young people is to teach them insecurity.
Yes.
And doubt and
I'll tell you another weird story, and that these are the parameters. Like this class is hard to me because there are parameters, and I'm watching everyone else do the homework, and I'm like, I don't remember seeing the homework assignment. I'm like all over the place. Yeah. Like I think I could teach a class on how to get through college without ever reading a book. Like that was my skill. That's how I got a degree. I knew I take Saran.
Lots of people do it.
Yeah,
people do it.
And this is because he is dealing in science, and and there's a couple of stuff you'll hear me refer to now. Is I'm in these parameters, so it's very hard for me, and I had so much anxiety, and I didn't get the first assignment right at all. And I sat there and thought, he is going to hate me. The two guys doing it, I had to call a friend and go, teacher's going to hate me. Had a dream that night that both teachers walked up to me and were like, hey, what's going on? Like showing that they didn't hate me. And I thought, that's how much problem I have with authority. These guys that literally don't even know who I am, that just are taking my money. What would they have problem with it? They're not going to go, you're so dumb, go away. That's where my brain went.
Well, you're not going to fill a cup that's full.
Right.
Your job in that class is not to be a know-it-all and not to have arrived already knowing things. Your job is to learn, right? So people struggle with that sometimes, like that failure or what they perceive as failure, which is really only just like part of a process of learning and growing, means an end, and they stop themselves. And if you look at, this is like, there's an argument about talent versus skill or talent versus persistence. Like you can have all the talent in the world, but that's not going to get you there. It's the person that is not stoppable, the person that keeps trying or that keeps comes back and gets back on the horse and shows up and shows up and shows up. And,
that's Hollywood. I feel like that's Hollywood.
In a way, yeah, it definitely. I mean, Hollywood definitely sheds a lot of so-called talent. Because the talent doesn't come with discipline or doesn't come with skill. Right. But to an earlier point you were making, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was thinking about how, the word responsibility, just like the word discipline, just like there's other words like that have like a really negative charge about them. But if you can notice that you have a judgment or like an old thought form that came from your childhood or someone who was mean or just too strict.
Authority.
That you attach to the word responsibility, that you attach to... Okay, we were talking about choosing, like how could you possibly choose your chronic illness, for example. But if you can remove all that other extra stuff that you attach to those words, and you could just like taking responsibility is access to freedom. If you can be responsible for your experience, so for example, as a student, and it didn't mean anything bad about you, then you could be like, oh my God, this is wonderful. I failed. I did not get it this time. So now I get the opportunity to work harder or to study again, or I'm not going to quit until I get this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that, you know what I thought? Because they have the class, so you can take the class and not get a grade, or you can take the class and get a grade. And I'm always going to choose the grade. Yeah. And I thought I could take all of these classes, fail them all, and still learn so much.
You're going to learn so much.
And so his speech on mind over matter, it will blow your mind.
So this is on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, and he talks about, and I'm going to hack this up quite a bit, folks, so be sure you go watch it. He talks about guys doing kung fu, and that I think he said his dad worked for NBC Sports or something, and that there's a video of a guy where he goes to break the brick. You can clearly see the brick breaks before his hand is anywhere near it.
Whoa.
And so I'm totally going to hack this up, but he tells another story about how they worked at the Society for Psychical Research. So they really did studies. And I believe he said one of the studies, the kung fu guy was in one room. They put this Lloyd, my teacher, in the other room, and they're asking the kung fu guy to push Lloyd when he can't see him through the wall. Ooh. And he does it.
That's great.
And the last thing he says is, I'm going to shove Lloyd up against the wall. And Lloyd doesn't know it, and he gets pushed up against the wall.
This is so next level martial arts. Probably not even next level. It's probably what they're already doing in the martial arts.
Yes. And so I looked up, and I sent the teacher a question about this, and he sort of directed me somewhere. So I may do more research on this. But I looked up, what is the difference between yoga energy and chi energy? Because I thought, how are they doing this? And Jessa and I talk about this a lot, because she always says how the aliens are trying to teach her to move something or to levitate, which is not only happening in Kung Fu, but it often happens with yogis. But I found a video just on YouTube, so I don't know, this might be an idiot, I don't know. But he was saying how yoga energy goes out, it comes back out. You want to be connected up and you want to be connected to the ground. Right. But Kung Fu energy, you keep it.
It's contained.
It's contained. So they must know how to throw that chi.
Well, your chi runs up and down your spine.
Right, like
that's your life force energy.
Right, the Kundalini.
Right, yeah. I mean, the Kundalini, see, now we're like mixing all these different traditions. Yeah. But ultimately it is, for some reason this makes me think about like how, in India, the relationship to vegetarianism is not explicitly about cruelty or not cruelty to animals. Somebody told me this, that the reason one would eat or live a vegetarian lifestyle would be because their objective is to seek enlightenment. And so the less body burden, the greater the access, right? Like if you were training to win.
Because meat is a heavier vibration.
It's what you train for, right? And if you are a warrior and you need to fight, you need to eat meat. Because there's the aggression and you're killing and you're eating the dead, So there's like a relationship to the way that energy is used in all of these different traditions that have to do with the purpose.
Right.
It's about directing traffic. Again, we're getting back into like, we live in a world that's made up of energy, and those of us that understand that, believe it, want to work with it. There are all these different traditions. There's not one way.
Right. Well, you know what? And this is two things. And then you know what? I would love for you to come back and do a bonus episode.
Oh my God, I would love
to. Outside of Conversations with April, we'll always do these.
Sure.
But giving a really short psychic lesson. Just step one. Give us step one.
Yeah.
And also, so here's the other thing. So folks, any mind over matter story, even if you think, I don't know if this is what they're talking about, send it to us. It doesn't have to be paranormal. It can be scary. You don't have to lift a car.
Yeah.
You can just be like, I didn't know better and this happened or whatever. Or I saw my kid do this.
Right.
And anything like that. I'd love to hear it. And so I got obsessed because they were talking about spoon bending.
You asked me if I could bend spoons the other day.
So there seems to be 3 or 4 different ways to bend a spoon. They have spoon bending parties, and some people were yelling at the spoon. And
Oh my God, that is a party.
and then one woman did a thing where she showed that she couldn't bend the spoon, and then she somehow warmed it up, and then she almost broke it in half with her hand. So I thought, and then my teacher told a story about someone teaching spoon bending and how you never know. One guy in front was just holding the spoon and it just fell over, like it just folded over. So, he talks a lot about Uri Geller getting caught on the Tonight Show. It didn't work, blah, blah, blah. But it sounds like, I don't know why they pick spoons or, forks. They do
There's an answer to that question.
Is it the metal? Because I saw another thing where the guy went to a party and somebody bent the spoon, and then they took the spoon to the spoon company, and the spoon company showed it under a microscope.
They autopsied the bent spoon.
Autopsied the bent spoon, and they said, this is what the spoon looks like if it was bent by force, and this is what the cells look like if it was bent by heat.
Nice.
And they said it wasn't bent by heat. But I'm thinking, even this is part of the whole thing about the paranormal consciousness that we're learning in class, is we don't know what we don't know.
That's like what I was saying about how holding a big space for the unknowable.
Yeah.
We're not, just because you're psychic doesn't mean you know everything.
Right. And be aware of any psychic that thinks they do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are questions that we are not meant to answer, or not yet.
Right.
Or it's not for your ears yet, or it's not for mine, or, but having respect for that is probably helpful.
Right. Oh my God, time flew by.
Oh my God, how can this happen?
I know. All right, well, thank you again,
Thank
April.
you so much for having me. I love these episodes. I
know.
love sharing them too. And I really appreciate any feedback. So if anybody ever comments or anything, I just love to hear.
Send
how people are
comments,
doing.
email paranormalkaren@gmail.com, or if you go to my website, it just goes to karenrontowski@gmail. I love all the letters. Some of you even are suggesting things you want me to look into, conspiracies. Send it all. We are going to try and collect mind over matter stories.
Yes, mind over matter. It's a great theme that never gets old.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's at April Readings.
April Readings. It's April like the month, APRIL Readings with an S at the end. And you can direct message me there, or you can send me emails, or reach out, book a reading.
Book a reading, yes.
Skype,
I highly suggest
by
book a
phone.
reading.
Yeah.
And folks, let's see. I got to go through. I'm terrible at this housework. Okay. Great American Comedy Festival of Nebraska, then Zanies in the Chicago City, and then St. Charles, and then Reno, I think July 16 through 22. Also Tahoe Paranormal Convention in September. Book a reading, karenrontowski.com, or at aprilreadings.com.
Yes.
Card of the day on, it's all there. It's all on my website.
It's so good, Facebook. Tarot card of the day.
Tarot card of the day. Thank you to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Folks, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.